It's time for football, and that means we're talking sports. Horse racing, greyhound racing, and sports betting with your host, Kip Keefer. Don't just watch the action. Get out to Birmingham Greyhound Racing and put a bet on it. Here are today's tips and strategies to help you get in the winning game. Now here's Kip Keefer.
Welcome everybody to a very special weekend on Talkin' Sports as we get ready for a huge college football Saturday and a massive day in the horse racing world as the 8 primary Breeders' Cup races come your way. It's going to be a fantastic day at our sponsor, Birmingham Greyhound Racing. Gates are opening now for the big day, the Parlay Sports Contest, and all of the big-time action from Churchill Downs in Kentucky. I'm Kip Keefer. I'm along with the legend, the Pope of college football, and we're not going to delay because we've got an unbelievably great special guest for the second time on our show, gracing our airwaves. We got the Pope here. We got the Godfather on the line. It is Danny Sheridan, the world-famous odds maker and expert. And Danny, welcome back to Talking Sports. We are delighted to have you.
I appreciate you having me on, Jim.
Anyway, we've got a big weekend coming up. I know that the Legend's got a lot of questions. Guys, let's start at the discussion. This weekend, the first of the college football playoff rankings came out. Not much controversy there. Why don't you guys kick that around and give me your reactions?
Well, I personally know that they got it right with Alabama, the king of college football. Everybody knows it's Alabama and everybody else at the moment. But they also went with Clemson, LSU, and Notre Dame. And Danny, I'd like to shoot that out at you first. Did the committee get it right? Are these the 4 best team in America right now?
Well, no, I don't think so. But I guess you could say they got it right because they put a premium, and they make up their rules as they go. You know, if a conference champion gets left out, like last year, they'll say, well, we picked the best 4 teams. And by the way, last year was the first time that I remember that they ever really did pick the best 4 teams. It's always we had to pick a conference champion. Anyway, to answer your question is, and it's not politically correct, but I feel it's true, you might agree, I would pick Michigan to be in the 4th spot over Notre Dame. I know they beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat them the first game this year, but since then, Michigan is a different team. Their quarterback, which they borrowed from Ole Miss, is doing really well, Fitzgerald, and I think they're a complete team. I think they'll beat Ohio State in about a couple of weeks or at the end of November. So that's the only change I'd make, but I can't argue that they politically correct made Notre Dame number 4, saying, hey, win out and we'll put you in there.
Guys, do you really think it's I find it kind of an unnecessary exercise to have a rankings this early. Wouldn't they be better served to just wait a couple more weeks until some of these things played out? Because these rankings really don't mean anything with just about every team facing a big challenge to keep their spot or to improve their position.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you're exactly correct, but you're leaving out all the money and you know this, that's involved in college football, and I'm sure the committee, they have to justify whatever they're paying them that, hey, we worked 6 weeks as opposed to 1. You only need to work 1 week and catch heat from the media, but that's another story. But this is good. It's good for the ratings. ESPN, I'm sure, pays a chunk for it, and it's part of their package. In fact, it's great for the ratings because everybody watches, so that's why they do it. But you're right, Jim. It's if you really want to be completely above board honest about it, you don't need to do it but one time. Here they are. But the problem is you'd probably have some of the committee members might have threatening phone calls, and at least this way they get to spread them out over about 7 weeks and make up a bunch of stuff. And it's a job that I wouldn't envy, but I wouldn't mind taking a shot at it. But my Final 4 would be the real Final 4, not what's politically correct.
Well, Danny, do you think right now there's a team outside of that Final 4 that could challenge Alabama? I particularly think Oklahoma could put up 50 on anybody. Is there a team outside of that Final 4 that you could pinpoint and say, this is a team that's a threat to the Crimson Tide?
Well, not counting LSU tonight, I would say, I agree with you, I would say Clemson and Oklahoma. That's the only 2 I see odds-wise that if they played today, Alabama would only be maybe 7 over Clemson and under, 8 or 9 against Oklahoma. The rest of them, they'd be double-digit favorites. And LSU, of course, they're double-digit favorites tonight. But LSU's got a better defense than Alabama, and, of course, Alabama has a better offense. It would be a hell of a game tonight. But that's the garrulous answer. Clemson and Oklahoma.
Danny, how do you react to, of course, we're already getting the screams, Joel Klatt, Fox Sports analyst, I saw a column from a writer up in Big Ten country. They're screaming SEC bias after this ranking. How do you react to that? Do you think there's any legitimacy to those claims, or is it just more sour grapes?
No, none at all. It's like the Heisman Trophy. If you don't get the votes in the Midwest, where it is 100% biased, or the West Coast, you don't win. It's just as simple as that. There's no bias. Right now, LSU has proven that they could beat just about anyone in the country, and I would say Michigan's real close, but not as good as LSU. It'd be hard to say between the two, but no, there's no bias because everyone knows that if you had to step in and play Alabama, say the West, you had to play Alabama, LSU, go to Auburn, pick any team you want, Notre Dame, Clemson. Clemson would probably be the toughest. They could handle it. The rest of them, Ohio State, Michigan, they could not handle it. And it's very, as you know, this is a brutal conference, and just anyone, including Vanderbilt, can beat anyone. I can't say that about the Big Ten or the Big 12 or the Pac-10. I could say it, but I'd be put in a rubber room.
Danny, what do you think about the other in-state school that we haven't mentioned, the Auburn Tigers? You was one of the few people at the first of the year that projected that this team would not win above 8 games this year. What do you have to say about Gus Malzahn and this program now?
Well, it's very mediocre. I think they'll do well. They should do well this morning against A&M. They're a better team, and A&M is, coming off a tough loss. Auburn's had 2 weeks to get ready, but as I've said, it's like a broken record. It's nothing personal. Auburn deserves better. For the last 4.5 years, they've gotten mediocrity. Now, if beating Alabama and Georgia every 4.5 years or 4 years is what they want, they got their man. But when you lose, like, I go back 4 years ago, I don't have it in front of me, but I think they lost 5 games, then they lost 6 games, then they lost 4 or 5 rather, and then I think 4 last year. If that's what you want, losing 4 to 6 games, and already this year they've lost 3 and will lose either 4 or 5 games. So again, if that's what you want, and I don't think that's what Auburn wants or deserves, that's what they've got, mediocrity. But as we've said before, when a president makes a decision to extend a coach for a ridiculous contract, you got real problems. And you got, again, the president is bright and all that good stuff, but he's not. His strength is not athletics.
No, not hardly.
Just like the athletic director at any school, their strength is not academics. They don't manage the school. They manage the athletic department. So that's what happened. And, hey, what can I tell you? I don't begrudge him a penny for making all that money. More power to him. I think if Auburn gets rid of him, they got to fork out $16 million up front and $16 million over time. But knowing their payroll, not a problem.
We got to take a quick break, Danny. Can you hang with us for 3 or 4 more minutes? And
as long as I don't get caught in the kickoff, I can.
All right, that's great. So we're going to take a quick break and come right back and break down the Alabama-LSU matchup and Auburn-Texas A&M. You're watching Talking Sports on ABC 3340.